Good morning, everyone. I certainly want to welcome you to the Chautauqua County, Greater Jamestown, Chautauqua County Airport to be the Robert H. Jackson Field. This is a very, very exciting day for us. And as we commemorate the past, the service of our veterans, the freedom of our nation, I want to begin this morning with the posting of the colors by our Civil Air Patrol cadets. So if you would remove your hats, please. It's probably best just to remain seated, I think, because we're so crowded, and then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this time, I would say, post the colors. At this time, if you're able to stand, you may stand. Place your hand over your heart, and I would ask Cadet Snell to lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated, please. How about a round of applause for the Civil Air Patrol, huh? What a special day. It was many, many years ago that I first climbed in a little Piper Cherokee and took off from runway 13, which turned me on to a 28-year career in the United States Air Force, flying America's great jet fighters. So it's special for me on a personal level, but it's clearly special for all of us. As we look at our veterans around this room, I want to especially acknowledge our Normandy veterans here who attended the 70th Normandy anniversary. Tony Costanzo, Paul Arnone. How about a round of applause for all of our veterans that are here? I can't acknowledge everyone, but Roland Swanson's a Navy CB. I always love the Navy. I always have to acknowledge him. And Jeff Tomasini, flew in a C-47 over the hump, right? So congratulations. What a great day to have you here. We have many special guests here today. Judge Joe Gerasi is here. Judge, where are you? Round of applause. There he is. Judge right here. Judge Sam Alessi is here. Sam, there he is over here. And past legislator and good neighbor from Bemis Point, Rich Babich. Dick, where are you at? I want to acknowledge you. Thank you very much. I took his place as a legislator. I have big shoes to fill. Also want to acknowledge Airport Commission member Hugh Butler is here. Hugh, where are you? Thank you very much for being, oh, there he is, over here. We have our county legislators well represented with Dave Hemmeline, Ron Lemon, P.J. Wendell. Did I miss any other round of applause for our legislators? Oh, and Lisa Bamstrom. I'm sorry, Lisa. You're under my special representative here. I always want to acknowledge the legislators that are working on my budget. I hope they work through it all right. Our elected representatives are represented here. Jacqueline Sherratt for Congressman Tom Reed. How about a round of applause for her? And representing State Senator Kathy Young is Lisa Vanstrom. Lisa, did you want to say anything, Lisa?
Senator sent a letter.
Okay. Would you like to acknowledge the letter from the senator? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vince. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Senator Young, I'm going to share a letter. She sends her deep regrets on not being able to be at this fantastic event today with the renaming of our great airport. Dear friends, I wish I could be with you at the renaming dedication ceremony for the Greater Chautauqua-Jamestown Airport Robert H. Jackson Field, but I must attend to previous commitments. I was honored to receive your invitation and will keep your accomplishments in my thoughts today. Today we honor the achievements of Chautauqua County's Robert H. Jackson and all of our World War II veterans. All of these heroes fought for justice and freedom, and it truly is a great reminder for all travelers that these Chautauqua County natives fought so valiantly for the ideals we hold so dear as Americans. I commend the work of the Chautauqua County Department of Public Facilities, the Chautauqua County Airport at Jamestown, and the Chautauqua County Airport Commission for their commitment to this facility. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to the Sun Air Express. I firmly believe that our region is by far the best part of New York State. We have wonderful people, businesses, and communities. Everyone involved in the Greater Chautauqua-Jamestown Airport Robert H. Jackson Field represents those qualities that make us so special. I'm proud to be a representative in the New York State Senate. Please accept my sincere best wishes for continued success. Sincerely, Senator Young. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Lisa. I just saw Assemblyman Andy Goodell that just walked in. Andy, would you like to say some words? Would you like to say some words? Oh, would you? Sorry.
It's so nice to be here and get such a warm welcome, Vince. And I will tell you that Legislator Vanstrom does a great job representing this area, along with Legislator Tarbrake. And he's on his way up here. He's flying in from Gary. I just left an event with him. And what I think is great is that by naming the airport after Robert H. Jackson, we are highlighting our place in history. An individual who grew up in Frewsburg, lived in Jamestown, practiced law in Chautauqua County, went on to make international news in the Nuremberg trials. And what happened in the Nuremberg trials is truly extraordinary. Because here, for the first time in history, we were applying American jurisprudence in the context of a world war. It's astounding. Senator Young and I, a couple years ago, were successful in getting the state legislature to pass legislation naming one of the bridges that goes over the expressway after Robert H. Jackson. And we did that so that everyone who was driving through our county would know that our county was the birthplace of an individual who changed history. And now we're taking the next step forward, thanks to our county legislature and county executive Vince Horgan, to make sure that everyone who flies into our county also knows that. Congratulations, great step forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Okay, at this point, I think, again, we're going to be a little flexible when the airplane arrives, but at this point, I think we're ready to kick the program over to Mr. Robert H. Jackson Center, Greg Peterson. So, Greg, take over from here. Thank you.
What a great day. As Vince mentioned, I've been thrilled since way back in 2001 to be one of the co-founders of the Robert H. Jackson Center, which was designed to advance the legacy of our native, Robert Jackson. And what a thrill it has been, and what a ride it has been. And to actually come through to the culmination today of naming a field after Justice Jackson, of which he would be so thrilled. And you'll hear from him shortly. A little bit of the history of this area, and particularly relating to Jackson, is, as Andy so aptly put, here's one of our heroes. Here's one of our heroes. In fact, one of his descendants is here today, Harold Bennett. And I just want to acknowledge Harold Bennett, who is a distant cousin of Robert Jackson. So, Harold, thank you for coming. And should you ever get to the town of Carroll, I don't know if the exhibit's still up?
Yeah, well, not the Jackson.
Okay. Well, Harold has put together and gathered up an awful lot of local history with regards to Robert Jackson, his time in the town of Carroll. But Robert Jackson is the answer to the Jeopardy question. Name the only person in the history of the United States to be Solicitor General, Attorney General, and a Justice of the United States Supreme Court. That's pretty nifty. From a guy from this area who never went to college, never graduated from law school, and as, again, Andy mentioned, he practiced law here for 20 years and went on to the highest levels in the domestic regime of both Presidents Roosevelt and Truman, and, of course, being the chief American prosecutor at the international tribunals at Nuremberg. It was that backdrop that when the terminal that was owned by the city of Jamestown became considered to be part of the county of Chautauqua, that the Airport Commission at that time paused to reflect as to how the best way to handle this particular brand new terminal. And we're thrilled today to have in our midst, and I'd like to call up at this time former City Court Judge, the Honorable Samuel C. Alessi, Jr., who was chairman of the Airport Commission at that time, to sort of do a historical reflection on where they started, and then I'll come back and figure out how we got here today.
Thank you, Greg. I made a few notes. If I didn't make any notes, I'd stand up here and talk for about an hour, and you wouldn't appreciate that. But I was interested to note in the Post-Journal the other day that 75 years ago, almost to the day, this airport was dedicated as the Jamestown Municipal Airport, according to the Post-Journal, before a crowd of 10,000. I think that must have been a little exaggeration, but anyways, it must have been an exciting time. And I was also happy to see Vince Horrigan's article in the paper about the economic importance of the airport to the county. But my purpose here this morning is to make sure that all the people responsible for what we see now receive thanks for their efforts. And it's a feeble effort, but I'm going to mention people, not individually, but by groups mostly. The airport was from the beginning managed by an airport commission made up of people appointed by the mayor of the city who volunteered to give a lot of their time and effort and consideration to the development of the airport. And I think we all owe them a vote of thanks. It's late, and they're pretty much all anonymous, but anyways, we owe them a lot. By the 1970s, it had become apparent to the commission that a new terminal building was needed. The original building was built down at the other end of the main runway by the WPA in 1938 and was totally inadequate for passenger and freight operations some 35 years later. A consultant was hired to produce a master plan, and back then the federal government did not supply funds for a terminal building. but it did pay a large part of the cost of all of the surrounding things for a terminal, including the parking lots, roadways, taxiway construction, taxiway and runway lighting systems, and so forth. So with the cooperation of the mayors and the city councils of the city, starting with Fred Dunn, Charlie Magnuson, Stan Lundeen, we applied to the federal government for funds to do that work, and at the same time started the discussions with the county in order to reach an agreement whereby the city would do all of the necessary field work and turn the airport then over to the county with the promise by the county to build a terminal building. And that's what was done. The agreement was made and the promises were kept, and we're sitting in that building today. Thanks are certainly due to the people of both the city and the county governments for that development. And who says that two governments can't get together and work cooperatively for the benefit of everybody? There's one development more that should be mentioned, and that is that the Airport Commission was informed by the FAA that an experimental low-cost instrument landing system was going to be installed. One of two in the country. The other one, I think, was in Vermont. But after testing, it would be removed. We were cautioned not to expect to have it here permanently. But after the testing, before it was even authorized, we found that pilots were using the system, and it was very, very successful. It was so successful that the commission began to ask what it would take to have it installed permanently. The answer came back, that's a political matter. So we talked with friends on the FAA in Washington and said, well, we'll write a letter to the senator. And they said, no, now is not the time. I'll call you in a couple of weeks and tell you when is the right time. So sure enough, a few weeks later, we got a phone call, and we signed a letter to Senator Robert Kennedy outlining the benefits of the instrument landing system and what it meant to the passengers coming in and leaving this airport. 3 weeks later, we received notice that work was starting on the permanent installation, and that...
Can I interrupt just a minute? C-47 is arriving right out here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just pause for a minute.
I'm glad to see that C-47. When I escaped or was released from active duty, it was at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I flew on a C-47 or DC-3 from Newark, New Jersey to Jamestown, nonstop, 2 hours on Allegheny Airlines. Anyways, we received notice that that instrument landing system was to be put in permanently. And from the point of view of aircraft operations, that changes this from a good small county airport to a first-class small county airport, in keeping with the quality of something that should be dedicated to Robert Jackson. I think his spirit, looking down on these proceedings, would be well pleased. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you. And you know, from those remarks that were very special, governments working together, isn't that really what it's all about? And you know, as the county executive, whether it's our federal, our state, our legislature, or county, governments working together is how we as a community will thrive, and that history is wonderful of the city and the county working together to bring this airport. What I want to do is, before we turn it back to Greg, who's always at the ready. As the C-47 taxis in, I did my quick little search on Jane's, and the Douglas C-47 was called the Skytrain. Basically used extensively by the Allies during World War II and remained in frontline service with various military operators through the 1950s. And I have to acknowledge, John Watkins, the Navy did have a version as well, although I tend not to acknowledge that. You talk about Americans mobilizing for war, the greatest generation. Listen to this. More than 10,000 aircraft were produced in Long Beach and Santa Monica, California, and Oklahoma City between March 1943 and 2 years later in 1945. 5,000 aircraft a year. When Americans mobilized to go to war, that greatest generation turned to. Oklahoma City produced 5,354 C-47s. I'm working on the timing. The C-47 was vital to the success of many Allied campaigns, in particular those in Guadalcanal and the jungles of New Guinea and Burma, where the C-47 and its naval version, the R-4D, made it possible for Allied troops to counter the mobility of the light traveling Japanese army. Additionally, C-47s were used to airlift supplies to the embattled American forces during the Battle of Bastogne. Possibly its most influential role in military aviation, however, was flying the Hump from India to China. The expertise gained in flying the Hump was later used in the Berlin airlift, in which the C-47 played a major role until the aircraft were replaced by Douglas C-54 Skymasters. Several versions of the C-47 were used in the Vietnam War by the United States Air Force, including advanced electronic warfare versions, sometimes called electric Goonies, designated an EC or electronic mission. A gunship variation using a 7.62 millimeter miniguns designated the AC-47 as Spooky, often nicknamed Puff the Magic Dragon, and it was also deployed. There's a crew of 4, a pilot, the co-pilot, the navigator, and the radio operator, could carry 28 troops. Here it comes, 28 troops. Power plant 2 Pratt & Whitney R1830-90C twin Wasp, 14-cylinder radial engines, 1,200 horsepower each. Maximum speed, 224 miles an hour, 10,000 feet at 10,000 feet. It would cruise, though, at only 160. The range, 1,600 miles, service ceiling, 26,000 feet. And to get to 10,000 feet, it took a leisurely 9.5 minutes. The C-47 truly is an airplane that has a tremendous mark in our history, but with a machine comes the airmen that flew it, that faced danger, that were there to liberate our allies, and were there in defense of freedom. So I think it's a salute not only to those that built her, but those that flew her and those that maintained her. So how about another round of applause for the C-47? At this point, I will turn it back to the videographer, sorry.
This is too cool. We couldn't have asked for anything better. Just briefly, to put this into an instant perspective, 1973, this airport was dedicated and accepted by the Honorable Joseph Gerasi, and what it was this terminal. This terminal was named after Robert H. Jackson, and in fact, there's a plaque when you walk inside that very first opening door to the right is the little plaque honoring Robert Jackson. Often you walk right through it because you don't see it because you're looking at the second sliding door, but that's it. But 40 years later, an opportunity presented itself, and we worked through the then airport head, Sam Arcadapane, and the airport commission with the opportunity to kind of complete something that started 40 plus years ago, naming this particular airport and field after Robert H. Jackson. Just as a side note, while things are setting up here, the call letters for this airport are JHW. That's not going to change. JHW, JHW, you've heard that forever. But interestingly enough, JHW stands for John H. Wright. John H. Wright, the founder of the telephone company. John H. Wright's personal and corporate attorney was, drumroll, Robert Jackson. So, on the John Wright, of course, who was married to Lucille Wright, to tie all these connectors together. So it's great and nifty and wonderful that we have an opportunity to today do something very special, to perhaps conclude something that was started by Judge Alessi's commission back in 1972, 40 plus years later, to be able to name it after the Robert H. Jackson Field. And as soon as we can, we will be hearing from himself, Robert H. Jackson. He's also mentioned by Judge Alessi is the fact that 75 years ago, there was mention of the field here, the North Main Street extension. And one of the proponents of that even earlier and well documented, there was a field on Baker Street, was Robert Jackson. So the whole Robert Jackson Airport Commission, et cetera, it makes a lot of sense for today's purposes. Finally, hopefully finally, but we're going to have an opportunity to have a display out there from the Robert H. Jackson Center, which is here to advance the legacy. And one of our principal documents is a film of Robert Jackson at Nuremberg. He flies in to the airport to start his work at Nuremberg just before the Palace of Justice. And what plane does he get out of? A DC-3. It's a beautiful world. By the way, DC-3, C-47, one and the same. So without any further ado, hopefully he'll get the cue. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call for Robert Jackson to come forward, and if they can get him down the plane. Pilots. This is cool to watch. I don't know about you, but yeah.
It has been called, DC-3 or C-47 has been called by people who know these things, the best airplane that was ever made.
There we go. And it's still playing. By the way, this plane, I forgot to mention this fact, this particular plane flew from Geneseo Museum. It's located at the National World War II Airplane Museum, Geneseo. And this flew to Normandy on June 6th this year, where Paul and Tony were at. So it too is celebrity in and of itself because it flew at D-Day. So I'm ready. As soon as they get a way to get them down. When you're a celebrity, they also got to wait for the videography.
There he is. Oh, that. There's Robert Jackson coming down right there. God, he looks good. Oh.
Don't lose them now. My God.
Yeah. You look older than he does.
What's these off mic comments? Ladies and gentlemen, Justice Jackson.
Welcome, Justice Jackson. Welcome. What a pleasure.
Thank you. Is that for me? Well, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be back in Jamestown. I have prepared a couple things, and I want to make sure that I get names right. Vincent Horgan. Well, it is a great pleasure to be back in Jamestown, and I want to begin by thanking all of you for coming today, and especially the World War II veterans. Where are you guys? Oh, I recognize. Wonderful. And again, thank Vincent Horgan for hosting us today, and for all the other citizens of Jamestown who have joined in. I think I'll put my glasses on. Oh, so much better. So much better. You should have been in there. Wow. There can be no greater honor than to be recognized by one's own hometown. I am proud and humbled that you chose to name this airfield and previously the terminal after me. Jamestown was my home for over 20 years, the place I chose to complete my early education, to launch my career, and to raise a family. I am deeply grateful to the many people who have had a hand in my success. My family, my teachers, my mentors, all here in Jamestown. In 1937, I had the distinct pleasure to return to Jamestown when WJTN Radio joined the National Broadcasting Company network. If I may, I'd like to share a quote from that speech, as the words are just as true today as they were in 1937. When Harry Wilder of the National Broadcasting Company network told me that he was considering investing in Jamestown, I was able, out of a long and happy experience, to recommend Jamestown to him as a desirable place in which to live, to invest, and to teach, and to do business. I am proud to be of this city. We should all be proud to be of this city. Today, we are welcoming a similar partnership between the airport and a new carrier, Sun Air Express. May this new partnership grow and flourish. I'm going to brag for a minute. I hope that my work as Solicitor General, Attorney General, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, and Chief American Prosecutor at Nuremberg has brought pride to this marvelous city and reflects the small town values I learned in school, in civic organizations, and in its close-knit community. Those values and the lessons of my life are as relevant today as they were 70 years ago. I am pleased to know, too, that they have been captured and are being preserved at a center that bears my name. The Robert H. Jackson Center was established in this community to present and to interpret my life's work in the pursuit of the rule of law, and to teach it to future generations. I hope sincerely that the center can be a place where students of all ages can learn what justice and fairness mean in today's society and can apply those ideals in an ever-changing world. I thank you. Who's next?
Right there.
Thank you, Justice Jackson. We're just thrilled and honored that you've been able to take from your busy, busy schedule, come join us today in the dedication of this wonderful, wonderful field in your honor. And Jamestown is proud to call you one of your neighbors.
Thank you.
Give him one last hand, Justice Jackson.
You just never know the surprises that one Gregory Peterson can come up with. But this is the formality of the resolution authorizing the Chautauqua County Airport at Jamestown to be named the Greater Chautauqua-Jamestown Airport Robert H. Jackson Field at the request of legislator Dave Hemline and yours truly, County Executive Vince Horgan. Whereas Robert H. Jackson grew up in Frewsburg, New York, and attended school there and in Jamestown, New York, and whereas Robert H. Jackson worked as a law clerk and passed the bar examination at the age of 21, and whereas Robert H. Jackson went on to have a very distinguished career as a Jamestown trial lawyer, U.S. Solicitor General, U.S. Attorney General, and Associate Supreme Court Justice of the United States. And whereas during his tenure as Supreme Court Justice, he represented the United States by setting up the International Military Tribunal and served as chief counsel at the Nuremberg trials. And whereas the Chautauqua County Airport Terminal was dedicated in honor of Robert H. Jackson on June 10, 1973, and whereas the request to change the name of Chautauqua County Airport at Jamestown was made by the Board of Directors of the Robert H. Jackson Center and was unanimously approved by the Chautauqua County Airport Commission for the Chautauqua County Airport, therefore be it resolved that the Chautauqua County Legislature, in memorial to this great man, hereby approves the naming of the runways and surrounding grounds the Greater Chautauqua-Jamestown Airport, Robert H. Jackson Field, adopted unanimously February 26, 2014. Pretty cool, isn't it? It really is. Could I ask the cadets if we could come forward at this time? One of my favorite movies growing up was The Bridges over Toko-Ri, Korean story of F-86 fighters outnumbered in the Korean conflict. And we're honored today to have Peter Carlo come forward to present a flag to the cadets. So I would ask, can we get as many cadets as possible to come up forward here? Just line up right here. As we've got a big flag, we need a lot of cadets. So come on forward. Keep coming. You're doing good. And we'll just kind of line up here and face Peter. There we go. Right up. There you go. Keep coming. Keep coming. We got them all in here. Come down a little further. Okay, and then we'll get a left face here in a minute. Okay. We good? All right. Wonderful. I'm going to get out of the way. This time I want to turn it to Peter to present this flag to our wonderful cadets.
Thank you very much, Vince. It certainly is an honor for me to be here, to look upon this crowd here of beautiful people, and really to say that each and every one of you is a friend of mine. And turn to each other and just say, hello, my friend. Turn to each other and say that.
Hello, my friend.
All right?
Hello. Hello, my friend. Awesome. He is my friend. Hello, my friend.
All right. Now, what I would like to do at this time to say to you, I met Robert Jackson when I was about 14 or 15 years old. My father had a business on Foote Avenue, and as we know, Mr. Jackson grew up in the area of Frewsburg. And he stopped in our place of business, and I did have a chance to talk to him on 2 different occasions. And he left me with an impression that I will never forget. I never met a man so stately, so upright, and so honest in my life. He was a great individual, and I'm surely, in my honor, I do appreciate him, meeting him. Now there's one other thing I would like to do. I'm going to ask each and every one of you to sing along with me. This is a chance for you to put your voices, blend them together, and our song, God Bless America. Would you do that for me? All right?
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait.
This is a big flag. It's the biggest flag I have. This flag literally flew in Washington, D.C. This flag flew over the House of Representatives. It's a beautiful flag. It's an island flag, and it's an honor for me to do this. As we speak, this is one of 184 flags that I gave out in Chautauqua County. All right? Come down. Sing along with me. Are you ready? God bless America. the mountains, to the prairie, to the ocean, white would fall. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
You guys know how to fold it? All right, let's put a couple over here. We'll fold the flag, and thank you very much, Peter. And at this point, while we're doing that, I'm going to ask George Spanos to come forward. I need to give a special round of applause to our Director of Public Facilities, George Spanos, and also Jim Johnson from the Jackson Center for putting this together. Thanks, George.
I never knew that being an acting director of manager of the airports will be so much exciting. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to thank everybody for being here today to celebrate this special event. I would like to thank all the veterans for their services, and also I would like to thank the Robert H. Jackson people for helping us put this event together, especially Mr. Johnson. Also, I would like to thank our commission, especially John Watkins.
Can you hold one second?
Sure.
Can you hold one second? Let me give this a hand. Let me help you guys right over here. Sorry. Okay, that's good. Like this. And there we go. And it goes like that. There we go. You got it?
It takes an Air Force person to show them how to do it right.
Right, we're almost set. There we go. Thank you, Peter. Okay. Great job. Great job, guys. Hold the box. Okay, you guys
And,
can head out. All right.
Thank you very much, all the Civil Air Patrol for their work. And finally, I'm happy to see that the long process with the essential air service process is coming to an end, and a new beginning for the greater Jamestown Airport, Robert H. Jackson Field coming to fruition starting November 1st. Sun Air will fly directly to Pittsburgh, and I'm very happy to welcome the president of Sun Air Express, Mr. Phil Lefevre.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here this morning. I'm happy to thank George and the community for the support for Sun Air. We're very excited about the opportunity starting November 1. I'm happy to say that we filed the schedule on Thursday, and tickets will be for sale this week. So please go to flysunairexpress.com. We're very excited about this opportunity. What a beautiful day, with gorgeous aircraft. I'm an 8,000-hour pilot, so I'll be jumping on that later. But thank you very much.
The process, of course, to go through the change. I also need to acknowledge Dave Sanctuary, who is always on reserve. You never know when you need Dave, but Dave, thank you for your incredible work. I think we're ready to close, I believe. Have I missed anything? Just a couple of closing remarks, and then we'll adjourn. But I just want to thank, first of all, everybody for coming out here. You know, in Chautauqua County, sometimes we spend a lot of time talking about our challenges, and we have many. But you know, it's about celebrating our successes that I think is what America is all about. We have challenges. Sometimes we face tough odds, but we always seem to come together and do things like build 5,000 airplanes a year when we need to. And in Chautauqua County right now, I can tell you that 135,000 people are benefiting from those that are leading and working to build this county. Our state legislators, our federal congressmen, senators are working hard on behalf of Chautauqua County. And I'll tell you, from the legislature and the county executive, I am so proud to be here. I'm proud to look out over our veterans. I'm proud to be at this airport. And I'm just proud to say this is a great time to be a citizen of Chautauqua County. The future has never been brighter. Round of applause for Chautauqua County. This concludes the program at this time, and I want to thank you all very much for coming. And I don't know if we have the opportunity, doesn't look like it with an engine, but anyway, talk amongst yourself and enjoy this beautiful day here in Chautauqua County. Thank you very much for coming.